Hi, everybody. So, we're going to continue with the Iliad today. Just as a refresher, we are on Rising Action 8, and I think pretty much all of our classes got to this except maybe one. But remember, Nestor, who was that really wise old fighter, he basically tries to get Agamemnon and Achilles to stop arguing by saying that he's been around for a really long time, and warriors and fighters that were even stronger and better than Agamemnon and Achilles listened to him. So, he was saying Achilles and Agamemnon should listen to him. He tried to persuade Agamemnon not to take Achilles' girl. He tried to persuade Achilles not to argue and to follow the orders of Agamemnon because he was in charge. And unfortunately, Nestor fails because Agamemnon and Achilles are both very upset. And so that's where we are going to kind of pick up now. And here we go. And Agamemnon answered, Sir, all that you have said is true. But this fellow believes he should become our Lord and Master, and he must be Lord of us all, King of all, Captain of all. And this shall hardly be. Granted, the gods have made him a great warrior. But have they really also given him the right to speak to us with such disrespect? Achilles interrupted him. I should be a mean coward, he cried, if I were to give in to you of all things, Agamemnon, or to the other people around if you want, but not me, for I shall obey no longer. Furthermore, and I say, I lay my saying unto your heart with this vow. I shall fight neither you nor any man for this girl Briseis. So those who have taken, those who give will also take. But understand this, Agamemnon. Take the girl if you must. But if you try to take anything else from my camp or my ship, my spear will be reddened with your blood. After they had quarreled thus angrily, the men rose and the group broke up the assembly at the ships. Achilles went back to his tent and his ships with his friend, the son of Menelaus, the son of Menoetius, and his company, while Agamemnon picked a crew and a vessel to escort Chryseis on the way back to her father with the sacrifice. And Ulysses, who is Odysseus, went along as captain. Then these men went on board and sailed their ways over the sea. Because they had been battling, they purified themselves and cast their filth into the sea, so that the sacrifice would be accepted by Apollo. These men then offered the sacrifice of bulls and goats without blemish, and the smoke rose with the savor of sacrifice towards the heavens in Mount Olympus. This is how they busied themselves. But Agamemnon did not forget the threat that he had made to Achilles, and he called his trusty message bearers, Talthybius and Eurybates. Go, Talthybius, go, Eurybates, to the tent of Achilles, the son of Peleus, and take his bride prize Briseis by the hand and bring her to me. If he will not give her to you, then I shall come with others, and I will take her by force, and it will be all the worse for Achilles. He then ordered the two men and dismissed them, and they went on their way sorrowfully by the hillside. And you'll see this is Rising Action 9. Till they came to the tents and ships. They found Achilles sitting by his tent and his ships. He was ill pleased when he saw them. The two men, Talthybius and Eurybates, stood fearfully and reverently before him. They never spoke a word, but Achilles knew them. So I want to pause here from the story. I want you to think about this. Agamemnon sends these two guys to go get Briseis from the strongest fighter in the Greek army. These two guys, they don't know if Achilles is going to keep his word and really give up the girl. They don't know if Achilles is going to get mad. So the whole way there, they're just like nervous. They don't know if Achilles is going to like try to kill him, because if he does, they're not going to be able to stop him. So these two guys are very nervous and very concerned. It's kind of like, they're probably, when they get closer, they walk slower and slower and slower. Kind of like, if you've ever done that thing where you get in trouble and you know that when you get home, you're going to get it. And so you just walk as slow as possible to get home because you don't know what's going to happen. So that's where these two guys who Agamemnon sent, Talibithius and Eurybates, are. They're kind of freaked out. They don't know if Achilles is going to keep his word. They are preparing to be killed. They don't know. They stood fearfully and reverently before Achilles, and they never spoke a word. But Achilles knew who they were and said, "Welcome, welcome, heralds, welcome, messengers of gods and men. Come, draw near. My fight is not with you. My fight is with Agamemnon, the one who sent you for the girl. Therefore, Patroclus, bring Briseis the girl and give her to them. But let them be witnesses by the blessed gods, by mortal men, and by the fierceness of Agamemnon's anger, that if there ever be need of me to save the people of Greece from ruin, they shall seek, they shall look for Achilles, and they shall not find him. Agamemnon is crazy with rage, and he doesn't know to look before and after, so that the Greeks might be safe." Patroclus did what his dear comrade had ordered him to do. He brought Briseis from the tent and gave her over to the heralds, Tibithes and Eurybates. The woman did not want to go, but she had to go anyway. Then Achilles, and you'll see we're on Rising Action 10, went all alone by the side of the shore of the sea. He was crying and looking out upon the boundless waters. He raised his hands in prayer to his immortal mother. "Mother!" he cried. "You gave birth to me to be doomed to live, but only a short while. Why does that short while have to be so difficult? You, surely, who can talk to Zeus, the one who thunders from Mount Olympus, might have made it so my life could be glorious. But no! My life is filled with difficulty, not just from the battles, but from this dishonor that Agamemnon has done to me. He has robbed my prize given to me by the men by force." And as he spoke, he wept aloud. And his mother heard him where she was sitting in the depths of the sea, by the old man, the father of the sea, Poseidon. At once, she rose as it was from a gray mist out of the waves. She sat down before him as he stood there weeping and crying. She comforted and caressed her with her hand and said, my son, why are you crying? What is it that grieves you? Do not keep it from me and do not keep it a secret, but tell me that we might know your pain together." Achilles drew a deep sigh and said, "Mother, why do I need to tell you? You already know. We went to the city of Thebes, their strong city. We won the battle. We ransacked the city. We bought the spoils of war to the city center. All the sons of Greeks shared the spoil alike among them according to their rank. And Agamemnon, getting first choice, chose the lovely Chryseis as his prize. But her father, Chrysis, the priest of Apollo, came in ships to free his daughter and brought with him a great ransom. Moreover, he had the scepter showing that he was doing it in honor of the god Apollo. He had the staff, he had the ransom. All of the Greeks said, yes, take the ransom. Well, everyone but one, Agamemnon. Agamemnon spoke fiercely and disrespected the priest. He sent him away roughly and threatened him with anger. Apollo, who loved the priest dearly, heard of Agamemnon's answer and sent a deadly arrow of the plague upon us. The people died thick one upon the other, for the arrows went everywhere amongst the wide host of us. At last, a seer, the one named Calchas, told us and declared what Apollo was mad about. I myself was the first to say that we should appease him and find out why Apollo was mad. Now, as we speak, some fellow Greeks are taking the girl Chryseis back to her father along with a sacrifice. And that Agamemnon just came to my tent and took my prize, Briseis. Help your brave son, therefore, if you are able. And actually, I'm going to pause right here. So, that whole part that we just heard, remember how I told you that these stories were a lot like the stories we listen to today because this was their entertainment? And because people would tell stories like around the fires at night, sometimes people would miss stories. So this is like if you've ever watched a sitcom or a drama or something like that on TV, and they have like the recap episode where they kind of like go back in time and explain how they got here. So that way people who are just catching up on the show or people who are just finding it or people who maybe missed an episode can catch up. That's kind of what they were doing here. So Achilles talking to his mom, like he was telling her this stuff that she already knew, but really it was so that way if there were people who missed part of the story or people who weren't able to hear a part of it, they could kind of get a recap and kind of catch up. But again, we should kind of get it because we see that a lot even in the TV shows we watch today. Okay, so we're going to jump back to it. Help your brave son, therefore, if you are able. Go up to Mount Olympus, talk to the mighty god Zeus. Ask and beg him if you have ever done him any service or any honor in either your words or actions. Ask him to hear your plea. Tell him and remind him of how you were the one that helped him through the wars. Go then, remind him of all of the things that you have done for him. Clasp his knees. Ask him to give favor to the Trojans so that the Greeks will lose the war and Agamemnon will be shamed because of his actions. Now, pause. That is so crazy, right? So, Achilles, who is a Greek guy who fights with these Greeks, is asking his mom to take their enemy's side so that way Agamemnon will lose and lose all these troops and all these guys that Achilles has fought for and with just to be super petty, right? And again, this tells us some of the things about Greek social structure and about how they viewed life. Being disrespected was a huge deal. And because of that, Achilles doesn't really care that guys are going to die. He's like, look, we're going to be super petty. Agamemnon needs to know he disrespected me. Ask Zeus to help our enemies to win. So that way, when they die and when they start to lose, Agamemnon will know it was because he disrespected me. That is, if I were a middle schooler in 2025, I would say it is diabolical work, right? Thetis wept and understood. My son, sorrow upon me that I gave birth to you or nursed you. Would indeed that you have lived your lifespan free from all of the sorrows. But remember, it was foretold. Either become a warrior and die quickly and be famous forever, or don't be a warrior, live a long, quiet life, and be forgotten by history. Know this, that the Greek gods are away from Mount Olympus. They will be back in 10 days. They are at a feast among the Ethiopians. When they get back, I will go to Mount Olympus. I will talk to Zeus in his palace. I will beseech him to help you, and I have no doubt that he will. On this, she left him, still furious about the loss that had been taken from him. Meanwhile, Odysseus had reached the temple of Apollo. The sacrifice went on, and Apollo was pleased. Thus, the plague was lifted. King Agamemnon, Odysseus began, has sent me to bring you back your child and offer sacrifice to Apollo on behalf of the Greeks, that we may make the God happy with us, the one who has brought such sorrow upon us. After saying these words, he gave the girl back to her father, who received her gladly. They ranged out the holy sacrifice. They washed their hands and prepared the sacrifice. As the sacrificial, as the sacrificial aroma went towards Mount Olympus, Apollo and the gods savored the sacrifice and were pleased. Upon hearing the prayer, Apollo lifted the plague. So that is where we're going to end off today. Tomorrow we'll kind of hear how this ends, and then we will finish up with the first book of the Iliad. So that way we could jump into the Aeneid. Have a great day. Remember, Mr. Seymour is not here today. You know what is expected of you, you know what is appropriate. Canvas has all of your classwork and everything that you need to do. Basically, after watching this, there are two videos that you will watch that are on Canvas. There's a handout that goes with each video. You will use the handout to answer the questions in complete sentence answers. Once you finish that, you may work on your study guide. Remember, our quiz is on Wednesday, so you really need to make sure you're preparing for that, that you have your evidence to support your claims, because there are no multiple choice nor true false questions. They are all going to be written response. So you have to be able to show how your responses not only prove what you were saying, but that you have to have, you have to make sure that you have the evidence that shows what you're saying and then explains how that evidence answers the question. Have a great day, you all. Make great choices. See you tomorrow. Bye.